Flintlock: The Siege of Dawn is the latest title from A44 Games, creators of Ashen. You are a sapper, aka a maniac with a pistol and axe that loves blowing shit up. The dead have been pouring out of the City of Dawn for years, and in a desperate attempt to stop their never-ending onslaught, you accidentally release the gods into the world. Alongside the only decent god of the five, you'll slice, dice, fillet, and blow away hordes of the living, the dead, and have a pretty fun time doing it. It is launching day one into Xbox Game Pass on cloud, console, and PC, so let's get into it in this XboxEra review of Flintlock: The Siege of Dawn. Building a new IP is tough. Giving reasons why names are used, how things work, the laws of magic, etc. can feel like a slog if your game is too talky. Flintlock balances introducing us to a new world pretty well. The pace is occasionally relentless with the progression, as this Souls-like is far shorter than most others. I completed my journey there and back in about 15 hours with normal difficulty. And yes, even though it's a Souls-light, it has easy, normal, and hard difficulty modes, alongside the ability to even have infinite health if you want. The story begins with your young sapper, Norris. She's a member of the Coalition, and you are Kian, which is the world's last hope. You have been besieged by the undead for nearly a decade, and your fighters are making a last desperate push into the City of Dawn. It's the home of the door leading to the Great Below. It's the realm of gods and mortals who have perished. The initial plan goes terribly, and instead of sealing anything, you actually unleash a whole bunch of gods onto the world. You are then joined by Enki, a tiny little fox who himself actually happens to be a god. You'll journey across a couple of decent-sized, though not massive maps, as you take the fight to these a-hole gods and rid local communities of all of their troubles. Flintlock has a really good main voice cast. You've got Olive Gray. She is Miranda Keyes from the Halo TV show as the lead Nora, and she does a great job selling someone who is full of rage, but also has depth to them. This is a Souls-light. There's no heavy RPG choices on the story, and most of it ends up coming through Nor and Enki's interplay throughout the game, doing the heavy lifting for the narrative. Speaking of Enki, this god is a constant presence and catalyst for the story. His journey through the mortal realm and his role in the game's events was an enjoyable, if occasionally a little bit predictable one. There were a few big revelations that had me say, yeah, no shit, at a time when Nor and the other main characters were shocked. Flintlock bills itself as that Souls-light. Combat is really fast-paced with a ton of movement. The right bumper is your melee attack, the right trigger shoots your pistol, and the left trigger reloads and aims your long-barreled weapon. X uses your currently equipped item, whether that's a health flask or a grenade, and Y is used to curse enemies via Enki's magic. Those curses can take multiple shapes based on the crystal that Enki has equipped, though like with most of the items in the game, you could beat Flintlock and never see one if you just mainline things. A jumps with a handy black powder magic-infused double jump, while B is your dodge, which also, if you double press, will have a black powder magic-infused double dash. That double jump and powder dash are used a lot in the game's traversal, which is both fun and occasionally frustrating. Flintlock has a lot of clambering and mantling, and often the game would have my character do a jump onto a very clearly marked platform that I should be able to mantle on, and instead I would just kind of slide off of it for a second or so before she would finally grab on. A lot of the double jumps also would not have me clear it by a few inches, and the same loop of sliding to the side before she finally grabs on would repeat. It wasn't a huge deal, but it made platforming feel looser than it should have. Combat is a typical lock-on focused dance of strikes, shots, dodges, and parries. Enemies have two types of attacks, those that can and should be parried, and those that must be dodged or interrupted via a pistol shot. Learning attack patterns on bosses was not overly complicated, and that held for most of the humanoid-shaped characters and monsters. There are some spider and emu-sized birds that were more of a pain in the ass than they should have been, because their attacks felt like they kind of came out of nowhere. The combat never feels great early on. You need to unlock more moves for it to get there, and even then, it's never as tight as I would have liked. The choice to not use a stamina meter means that enemies instead just fight through your attacks, which can be frustrating for this genre, with the lack of it making it feel like you're really hitting someone unless you've unlocked your heavy swing, and then you can bash them to hell and back. That is a key difference in Flintlock. No stamina meter, it means you can attack forever without getting tired. And to counter that, the enemies, especially as you get to the mid to late part of the title, just are never stunned anymore by what you do unless it is very specific timed moves like the parry or pistol shot. The left bumper is how you block regular attacks, and if pressed right before you're hit, it's how you parry. So learning when to melee, when to shoot for interrupts, when to dodge or parry was a lot of fun after I realized how don't be greedy Flintlock is. While things can be very fast once you unlock more of Norris toolkits, you want to take it slow early on. Losing HP isn't the only negative when the enemy lands a blow. As reputation is the name of Flintlock's currency. To earn it, you need to kill enemies, which is standard. What isn't is the currency modifier that builds up as you hit them in a variety of ways, allowing you to cash in on your current currency combo by holding left on the D-pad whenever you want. But if you get hit, all of your modifier is lost, and instead of, say, getting 72 times 50%, you just get 72. When you die, your reputation is left as a giant circle on the ground around the location at which you died. Getting it back is as simple as running over your dead corpse. No button press required. You'll also get a whole heck of a lot of reputation from doing main and side quests. And while that is the only currency you'll earn, you will find iron, wood, and sulfur, which you need to upgrade your weaponry, tools, and armor when you're at your base camp. As you progress through the game, and I cannot stress this enough, do not mainline the story. Search every city, crevasse, etc. on each map. This is the only way to unlock every axe, hammer, gun, grenade, and armor piece. A few are given to you as you play the campaign, but know that you need to explore on your own to get the most out of Flintlock. And that reputation is also used to upgrade your tree of skills as well, and that can be very expensive. There are 3 upgrade paths in the game, one for melee, one for ranged, and one for Enki's magic. As you unlock a skill, the one above it becomes available to unlock as well. And as you get each one ready to go, your overall damage for that skill type raises too. By the end of my playthrough, I had all but 3 or 4 skills unlocked and was doing roughly 35 or 40% more damage than I had been at the start of the game, which, when you combine those unlocks with weapon upgrades, I could easily one-shot enemies that took 4 or 5 swings before. All of the game's coolest shit is tied to that upgrade system. A huge punch on the ground that does an explosion, actual just heavy swings, parrying ranged attacks, and a lot more all require you to do the surprisingly easy grind of getting reputation and doing side quests. To unlock more health flasks, you will need to liberate hamlets, and the main story only goes through a few of them, so again, you'll need to clear the map to power yourself up. There are Enki tail feathers that are hidden in places that power him and his curses up, health stones that are the only way to raise your HP limit, and a ton of great content that is really easy to miss if you are not dedicated to exploring. It's kind of the most Souls thing about a game that takes a lot from that series. The level design is pretty basic but well done. I was never awed by a layout or shortcut unlocking, but they nailed the vistas when you traveled around. I got the feeling that I was in something far bigger than I knew it to actually be. Playing on a Series X in performance mode as well as PC at 4K Ultra, Flintlock looks good when you can see it. Playing on a nice OLED TV, the game is way too dark whenever the sun isn't blazing in the skies above. I had to adjust the in-game gamma from 50 up to 70 to keep my eyes from straining to make out details. That led to things looking a little bit washed out, especially during the daytime, but it was worth it. Player models look good on console and a bit better on PC. Nor and the other main cast are of a much higher quality than most, and the NPCs you'll fight are a mix of zombies, pirates, barbarians, and knights of varying art style quality. And I did like that style overall. It's a universe of weird Napoleonic themes that suit the story. And I think my favorite part of Flintlock graphically are the gorgeous vistas that you find. Early on, you unlock the ability to fly between specific points. Enki can open tears in reality, and you can fly between them in a set path. This led to some very fun exploration in higher locations that then showed off those gorgeous backdrops that had been a little bit hidden before. Flintlock seemingly has a very good lighting system outside of things being too dark by default. You'll get a shift of time of day that changes up the mood of an area. As you come upon a ransacked hamlet, it will be dark and red. After you kill the leader, and everyone gets to move back home, it's all bright and cheery. It's nothing groundbreaking, but it's well done. And I love Elias Tufexis as a voice actor. His recent turn as Sam Cohen's Starfield was excellent, and he'll forever be a legend after his turn as Adam Jensen in 2 Deus Ex titles and so many more. But he puts on a weird British affect here as Norris' mentor that always just sounded a little off to me. He neither sounds old enough for this Captain Picard with a goatee old man, nor does he sound anything other than someone trying to do a British voice. Again, I love the man's work, and if you can get past that, whatever that accent is, he still does a great job. And other than that, the writing's a mix of really solid for the main story and extremely video game NPC incidental dialogue for the rest. When you're walking around any town you've liberated, far too loud voice lines will hit every single time you go by certain NPCs, and hearing them over and over again did start to drive me a bit mad. The music, though, is an odd mix of classical sounds and modern instruments. It's almost dance hall-like during boss fights, and while it really threw me early on, I ended up digging it quite a bit in the fights against the gods. There aren't a ton of boss encounters in the game, so having some banging tracks when they do show up was a big benefit. Bug-wise, I had the game crash on me twice on Xbox early on, but that stopped after they fixed a reviewer's worst nightmare. Some Xbox titles that are Play Anywhere just refuse to let you play online or on the Microsoft Store on PC at all during the review period. That was fixed well before the embargo, and after that issue was solved, I never had another problem again. And again, it's something that only hits us who review games early. It's not going to be something you ever have to worry about. One thing that did happen, though, was Nor would occasionally get stuck platforming for like a second or two in between rocks, vibrating like there was a earthquake that was 9.0 on the Richter scale going off, before she'd pop out and it would be okay. It happened like 4 or 5 times, but she never got fully stuck. She'd always pop out, so I never had to reload my save or anything. Wrapping things up, Flintlock: The Siege of Dawn is a lot of fun if you engage with all of it. At first, I was flying through main quest after main quest before I slowed down and explored every inch of the map. Once I made that change, I went from enjoying my time to really loving it. It's not the tightest game out there, but it has a lot of really good ideas that come together for a package well worth the experience, and it's available day one on Game Pass, so if you got the sub, it's real easy to check it out.